All right. Before we continue on with the fabulous videos that Ricky's going to do, I do want to thank all the speakers today who came up and spoke about various aspects of Armstrong's life. That is a lot of hard work that goes into that, and we appreciate all that hard work that they put in. So thank you to Daryl Sherman, Don Vappy, Sasha Feinstein, I'm going to pronounce it wrong. Jerry Roach.
Like the sing.
Ricky Riccardi. Thank you to Maxine Gordon and Bruce Rayburn and Bjorn Barnheim and Vic Hobson. Thank you all for all those people for coming up here and enriching our intellect, as we say. And right now, a man who at this setting needs utterly no introduction. I give you Ricky Riccardi.
All right, we're back. Quick heads up. I had planned about 75 minutes of stuff, and I've got 45 minutes. So there won't be as much stand-up comedy today, but there'll be more. There'll be more Louis Armstrong. That's a good thing. The theme of my sermon today is Louis Armstrong on the Mike Douglas Show, 1964. It's a very interesting time for Louis. He had just recorded Hello, Dolly, December 3rd, 1963, but it had not been released yet. So he did not know that his entire world was about to change. Instead, he's still playing one-nighters, including a week at the Cleveland Boat Show. Anybody been to the Cleveland Boat Show? That's when you know you've made it. And the Mike Douglas Show, daytime television at its finest, they were broadcasting from Cleveland, and they booked Louis Armstrong to be the guest host, the co-host, for a full week, 5 days. And I've boiled 5 90-minute shows into 45 minutes. So let's start off with some music. Great addition to the All-Stars. We have Louis. We have brand new trombonist Russell Big Chief Moore. This might have been like his first week with the band. Trumma Young just left. Joe Darrensborg of New Orleans on clarinet. Billy Kyles on piano. Arvell Shaw is on bass. And we have Danny Barcelona on drums. And I did not plan it this way, but almost everything that's going to be covered is kind of a summation of what we've heard all day today. There's going to be little snippets. If you have perfect attendance today, you will be rewarded with this presentation. So first off, a song that Louis Armstrong, to the day he died, claimed he wrote. So Satchmo, the composer, let's listen to Struttin' with Some Barbecue.
You think we could strut with a little barbecue now? Yeah, barbecue. Strutting with some barbecue. Who yonder?
Clap on 1 and 3.
That's Sawbell's song right there, huh? Billy Cunningham.
We're going to skip Magician Peter Pitt. You don't need to see everything. So we're off and running. It's good stuff there. But unfortunately, there's a lot of trumpet players in the house. And I didn't mean unfortunately there's a lot of I'm happy to see so many trumpet players. But unfortunately for the trumpet players in the house, there's not much. That's like the peak of the week because that night, Louis Armstrong played 2.5 hours at the Cleveland Boat Show. And the next day he showed up and his chops were gone. And he announces it one day. So for the next 3 days, he mostly sings. And there's a little trumpet at the end we'll get to. But now we get the fun of Louis Armstrong talk show guest. And we're going to get to some of his interviews, which are really interesting. But he's on the panel the entire time when other people are there. And he always can't help but just jump in the conversation. So January 20th, 1964, the smoking report is released. And I don't know if you've heard, but smoking is bad for you. And in 1964, people did not want to hear this. And so the doctor comes out and he gives a report and you hear all the murmuring in the audience and the people are like booing and no one wants to give it up. And the doctor's explaining, oh, listen, this stuff is going to kill you. And everybody's like, nah. And sure enough, Louis Armstrong has to jump in and give you his thoughts on how he will live forever and continue smoking unfiltered Camels.
I should think, but...
Well, Doc, I've been smoking a long time myself.
How long, Louis?
Since I was in my teens, I used to tip on out and get a butt or so, you know, I was able to buy a pack since I was a newsboy. And And I'm way up in age now, and I'm still smoking. But to me, I find that a good goggle and to keep a system with a good laxative and wholesome food, I don't see no reason anybody shouldn't smoke. I mean, I think it's some people that don't use those things that get some, such as the throat get dry, they don't know about lozenges, you know. I always keep a good goggle around. That's why I can talk low and sing, oh, yes! All the time. I keep stone pipes all the time.
Well,
and it
I
never
think-
affect me. I don't know.
I think you're just one of the people who proved the rule. People are more susceptible, some people, than other people, to cigarette smoke and to the things that are in the smoke. And a good friend of yours, I think, Dr. Oxner from down in New Orleans, who runs the Oxner Clinic down there, says that if you live long enough and smoke, you die with cancer of the lung if something else don't kill you first. So he feels it's just a matter of time. And some people don't have the same reaction. Maybe your gargling and things like this do help you.
But what about people that they don't smoke at all and they die?
Of lung cancer, too.
Yeah.
Certainly, but the death rate is about 3 or 4, in fact, 10 times greater in the people who smoke than it is in the people who don't smoke.
Doctor, I can answer that.
Lou was like, yeah, well, so, I do not encourage smoking, but if you do, remember a good gargle and a good laxative, and it cancels all the negativity. The next day, things get even hairier when Armstrong is on the panel with a woman there to discuss birth defects. And it's a deadly serious. I mean, the audience is silent, and Lewis figures he needs to break the tension. And, well, here it is.
Almost unanimously will offer the type of good, solid medical advice that is needed in the situation, including social counseling. Yes, sir.
I must have been affected with birth defect because my mama told me when I was born, the first thing I said, what'd you say at your age?
You had a voice that low, Lou. Dan, I'm very happy that you paid us this visit.
And they go right back to it.
Because when
just-
people are
just-
asked to contribute
just enough to
sometimes too
break it
much
up,
of that,
so-
now they know that it's going.
He really missed his calling. He should have been a talk show sidekick with commentary like that. Turns out the band, though, when they weren't playing, they were talented in other avenues. And this is a little on the long side, but I'll show you maybe the whole thing. We'll see. But Joe Darensbourg was a world-famous chef, and I probably wouldn't show this anywhere else, but daytime TV, they need to fill up the 90 minutes. They give Joe Darensbourg a cooking segment of how to cook gumbo. And Lewis is there to give his approval. So let's take a break and have a little cooking segment here, the glories of daytime TV, and come back tomorrow for Lucille's recipe. For
Louis,
red
we
beans
said
and
a little
rice.
bit earlier that there was going to be some cooking on the show today, and it says in front here gumbo, but isn't that
Gumbo.
New Orleans?
That's New Orleans, and the Creole boys cooking it there.
That's
Our-
Joe Darensbourg, the clarinetist with the band. Joe, they tell me, Louis, they tell me that they asked Joe if he had to give up music or cooking, he would give up music. Is that true?
Well, Joe, how you feel about that, Joe? You like,
What about it?
Well,
you like to cook? We supposed to open up a restaurant. one of these days.
Well, yeah, you figure if you got a restaurant, you always have something to eat, you know.
The restaurant business sort of runs in your family, doesn't it, Joe?
Yes, it does, sir. I had an uncle who used to cook at a famous restaurant in New Orleans on Twines, and that's where I learned a lot of my recipes from.
What goes into gumbo? Can you show the ladies from
Well,
the start? I know you're preparing it because it's something
Well,
you have
I've got a lot of the stuff on. First, you would make what the Frenchmen's call a roux. The Creole people out of flour. Most people know how to make that. You brown your flour.
Roux?
A roux they call it.
Roux.
You brown your flour, and then you put your onions and garlic and simmer them for a while.
How do you brown flour?
Well, in cooking oil, you know.
Oh, I
Put
see.
some cooking oil and put your flour
I
in
see.
it. And you add your onions and garlic and your celery and kind of tenderize those a little. And then you add your, like your chicken. A lot of this stuff is optional in gumbo.
But let me tell you something. The ladies are at home and they're trying to follow all this. Can you give them an idea of how much of everything goes into the making of this? or not? Or don't you
Well,
measure
well,
things?
well, actually, I never measure anything. It's a kind of a deal of...
They're all agreeing with you. They're all saying that's the way they're
this is a kind of a glorified hash, you know. As a matter of fact, that's the only way I could tell when it was Christmas at home. We always had this dish. No, but you have your ham, and you have chicken. Here's your ham right there.
Yeah, the ham is here,
And here's some crab meat.
which is still frozen.
Yeah, and here's some shrimp.
Uh-huh.
And those are all of this is pre-cooked.
I see.
Actually, what you have to cook is your chicken. I use chicken breast and lobster. And
Put sauces in it too.
oh yes, I try to get we usually use a Polish sausage, but I've got some kind of a sausage here. I hope we're lucky.
Yeah.
I think it's a sort of an Italian sausage.
Oh, sort of an Italian sausage? Well, I mean, if you don't measure anything, I think you could put anything in it.
Well, if people can take a look over here, look.
Can you get a shot of this, Tori, close up? It looks like some cauliflower in there, too.
No, it's celery and parsley, and I have a lobster and chicken breast.
Uh-huh. And let's see, what else is in there? What is that? That meat that's the sausage you were talking about.
That's right.
Well, it smells delightful, Joe.
Yeah.
Just wonderful.
Well, I hope we're lucky, Mike.
But how long do you cook this?
Oh, about an hour and a half.
About an hour. Listen, we'd like to make this gumbo recipe available, but you have to be kind of a magician to get it, you know. Actually, can you give us an idea of just about how much you put in there of each,
Well,
item?
for instance, I'm using a 2 lobster tails here and about 4 chicken breasts.
2 lobster tails and 4 chicken breasts. Okay.
And about a pound and a half of this sausage.
Pound and a half of sausage. Have you got that, or we're going too fast for you? And what else? I see the oil over there. How much oil did you use?
Well, I used about
How much?
a quarter
About
of
4 bars, huh?
about a quarter of a cup of oil to brown my roux flour.
Now, what you have here, how many people can you serve?
Well, actually, it
Depends on
how
the
much
appetite.
they can eat.
This might well be the funniest cooking segment we've ever had on the
Well,
show.
I'll tell you one thing. For instance, our bass player and piano player, that would just serve them. I mean.
Yeah, I got to look at your bass player. I think you couldn't get a tall bass player, huh, Louis?
Oh, yeah, he can really swing.
Oh, this is
I think you get the point, but I mean, if he just gave a few more measurements, it could have been the great gumbo fad of 1964. But eventually, Lewis finally sits down with Mike Douglas and talks, and he talks about his early New Orleans days, and it's one of my favorite segments, probably the best telling of the whole shooting on New Year's Eve, the Colored Waif Zone, and he reenacts the quartet. He sings a little bit of My Brazilian Beauty down on the Amazon, and then he tells one of his favorite stories, the story of Red Sun, somebody who he went in the waif zone with another bad kid. So here is Lewis, relaxed, talking about these early days.
Louis, everyone here in the studio and everyone watching out there has seen you perform at some time or another, but I doubt very much if many of them know about your childhood and your life in New Orleans.
Yeah.
What was it like? How did it all start with you?
I enjoyed my childhood days. And when I was a young kid, about 10 years old, I used to sing in a little quartet, go along the streets, you know, and pass the hat.
Oh, yeah?
And we had a nice little hustle there.
Did you always sing the way you sing now? Did you always have a husky voice?
No, when I was about 10 years old, I used to sing tenor in the quartet. See?
You see what can happen to you tenors if you don't vocalize? You'll make
Well,
$1
you
million
know,
is what'll happen.
The kid that hang around in my neighborhood in those days, you know, early days, they had honky tonks and things like that, and we had to go to bed. We were scared we were gonna miss something, you know, watching the cats gamble and different things like that. So around New Year's time, they always celebrate with firecrackers and the pistols and different things like that. See, and if you had a gun, why? New Year's Eve, you could step right out in the street and boom, 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 you know what I mean? Of course, it's against the law, but
You did it anyway.
They did it anyway. And I kept watching my father's pistol in the trunk there. And the week before New Year's, I kept on thinking, well, I'm going to celebrate these little kids around here with these little cap pistols, die, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Say, I'm going to really show them something when we get on Rampart Street this time. And I was about 12 years old, see? And I noticed while we was going up the street singing, we used to go 2 by 2 singing, my Brazilian beauty, and on the Amazon, that's where the bass is. You know, and somebody will say, come here and sing, boy, or something like that. And at the meantime, this little kid across the street, he pulled out his little 6-shooter and die. I say, wait a minute. You know what I mean? And oh, they thought that was great. I had the biggest sound. And I looked around, and the detective had me by the neck, you know. And boy, I cried. And I couldn't get away from him. He took me down to the juvenile court, and then the next day they took me out to the orphanage. It was called the Colored Waves Home for Boys. Mm-hmm. And I get there about lunchtime, and there's boys sitting at the table, a line of them, and they sit me way down at the end, and as I sit down, I could see a pan of beans coming down to me, you know. So I had to make myself at home there. And in about a month's time, they made me the bugler of the institution.
Had you played the horn at all
no,
at that point?
But I wasn't doing so good on the drums, so they said, well, they put me on the bugle, and I used to blow the calls for the institution. The boys would drill and go to bed and everything. And then about a month later, the little cornet player, he went home. His parents come got him. They put me in the little brass band, see?
Put you in a brass band?
In the little brass band they had out there. And we used to play... Saints go marching in every Sunday for the boys to march to church, and I enjoyed that. And finally, they made me leader of the little band. And
how old were you then?
Well, I was going into 13, and I made myself at home, you know. And long about 6 months later, I come to knowing everybody, the kids, and what they do, and different things. And as you go along, some would be leaving, some would coming in, you know. And I remember one day we was out in the front, the big place out there, big pasture. We was playing ball, see? And about a week before that, there was a boy they called Red Sun. He was a real red boy, got a stupid look like, you know. He reminded you of Boo McNutt in the funny face way back then.
Red
Anyhow,
Sun,
we didn't pay any attention to Red Sun leaving because we all wished him goodbye, Red Sun, have a good time and stay out and blah, blah, blah. See, he was in there already for stealing a little something, you know. But anyhow, we figured Red Sun would be a good boy and never come back, see. And about a week later, we was out there playing ball, understand, and a cat come up on a horse, buckety, there's Red Sun on a beautiful horse and everything. Oh, we thought that was so wonderful. You know, he's working for Milk Dairy in Algiers, you know, and he had dinner with us and everything. Finally, he went, that night we went to bed, he went home. And don't you know, 3 days later, they brought Red Sun back there for stealing a horse. Oh, we had a lot of funny things.
How long did they keep you?
The story of Red Sun. The January 23rd episode actually opens up with kind of a sad, almost historic moment. Jack Teagarden died the night before, and this is them kind of announcing it on national television, and then Lewis does Basin Street Blues as a tribute. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, here is Louis Satchmo Armstrong. Louis, this is the very top of the show, but yesterday we lost a great musician and a very dear friend of yours.
Jack Teagarden.
Jack Teagarden.
Yes.
And one of his favorite songs was Basin Street Blues.
Yeah, that was one of his favorites. He used to blow that horn on, and he used to play that solo so fine.
Let's pour it on now for
Oh,
old Jack, shall we?
Yeah, boy!
Won't you come along with me?
Come along with me
To that Mississippi,
down to Mississippi.
to the dimly lit place where the folks all meet.
Heaven on earth, they call it Mason Street, yeah.
There'll be folks there to greet us,
Folks that greet us,
all waiting to meet us.
yeah, waiting to meet you.
The little old place
Uh-huh.
where everyone meets.
I know what you mean.
What is it, Louis?
Baba in New Orleans on Mason Street. Mason Street is a street where the folks, they all meet down in New Orleans. The land of dreams, by the best, by all yes, she's by the sunset. By the
place where happy folks
whoa,
where you go
it's
to
a dream.
lose those
Swinging on
Mason Street blues.
Yeah.
Now, Louis, aren't you glad you came with me?
Yes, I'm always glad to be with you, boy.
Right down the muddy Mississippi
Yeah, down that Mississippi.
to the little dim old place where all the cats meet.
Baba da dee ba da zat. Oh yeah.
We'll be right back.
Oh, Dr. Joyce Brothers is coming up, and she's actually going to give you all a quiz. And let's see how Louis Armstrong does with Dr. Joyce Brothers. It's a romantic quiz.
If you weren't an entertainer, would you rather be a psychologist, a banker, or a druggist?
Louis?
Louis?
Will you repeat that again?
If you weren't an entertainer, would you rather be a psychologist, a banker, or a druggist?
Well, I'd like to be a psychologist because I'm halfway a psychologist now. I can kind of read your mind, see. I remember the time I was reading a lady's mind and she slapped me right in the face.
Now cut that out.
John, what about you?
I'd like this.
One more little quiz, I think.
On the street and pass a beautiful girl. What would be the first thing you notice about her? Her hair,
Oh,
her
come on.
eyes, her figure.
Well,
Louis? Steady now.
I like to, I always notice that hair, you know, because before them wigs came out, some awful bad.
John?
Yeah, Louis Armstrong, talk show guest. But things got deadly serious at the end of that episode. They had someone named Louis Lomax on, and he had just done an investigative report for CBS TV on the Nation of Islam. Remember, it's 1964, and he explains it. And he's not a Muslim, but he's explaining how they feel and the white devil and all that stuff. And again, you hear the crowd, you know, just squirming in their seats. And the discussion goes on and on and on and on and on. And I didn't edit this, but it's so funny. There was supposed to be a wrestling demonstration. Anyone remember the fabulous Moolah? She was supposed to come out and close the show, but the Nation of Islam discussion was so serious, and they bring Moolah out there, and everyone's got a stone face. They're like, we're not going to go on with the wrestling demonstration today. And they got so many letters and calls that Louis Lomax had to come back the next day and explain it further. And according to Joe Darrensbourg's autobiography, he was talking backstage that his goal was to kind of trap Louis into a conversation about race and stuff like that. And here is the moment where he turns the tables on Louis. But again, Louis is too smart. And watch how he quickly outwits him right before the commercial break.
is simply by correcting the evils. See, the black Muslims, like communism, thrive on the failure of good people. And we don't have to fight the black Muslim movement. If the problems of Cleveland, the problems of New York are met forthrightly by men of goodwill on both sides, well, proof of the pudding is that the black Muslims now have peaked and are dwindling. And they are dwindling because the Negro revolt has succeeded, and the frustration that many Negroes once felt, that there was no hope, that there was no end. After all, I'm 40. I was born in a small Georgia town, worked my way through Yale University shining shoes in a segregated barber shop in Valdosta, Georgia during the summer. I was called nigger, I was called boy, my father was beaten, my mother was slapped down once in an A&P store. But now I write books, I'm in every magazine, more work than I can do, more TV work than I can do. In less than a generation, the thing has happened. The thing has worked. You see, this is what I'm saying, and this is why I have a tremendous faith, not only in this country, but in our way of life. And this is why I don't join the panic people who fear communism, because I'll debate Khrushchev anywhere he wants to, because I think I've got the best argument. And I think the greatest defense, not only against the black Muslims, but against communism, is to make our own system work.
Louis, how do you feel about the racial situation?
Well,
you ever encountered any great problems in all
well,
of your
I tell
travels?
you, I was born and raised in New Orleans, you know that, and ever since I was a kid, selling newspapers, the man that I used to get my papers from was a white boy, and he was so nice, you know, and I never had any problems. The white people always did a lot for us as far as letting us play at the finest places. We played at the country clubs, you know.
You mean your band?
Well, yeah, I'm just telling you, I come through there, and all through my life, I never did have any problems like I see a lot of the boys talk about, you know, and quite naturally all these new movements and things like that, that's new to me, you know.
May I ask you a question, Louis?
Yeah.
Because you were great when I was very, very young, and I've always admired you. But I would like to ask you a rather interesting question. Your band played at the country clubs.
Well, yes.
Could you go there with your wife and dance?
Well, I didn't have a wife at that time.
You can't outsmart Lewis. Music time. By the end of the week, his chops are coming back, and I don't know who requested this because the All-Stars were not playing this at the time, but Old Man Mose was like Armstrong's big hit with the Louis Russell Band, 1935, written by Lewis and Zilner Randolph. And here's the All-Stars doing it in 64, slower than the original, but swinging like mad. And, you know, Lewis, the actor, comes out here. It's really fun stuff.
Oh, we got Louis in place. We have Joe Derensburg. We have the Chief, Billy, Danny, Arvel. And they're going to combine their efforts. And this is one we've been wanting to hear, Louis. We're not going to tip it off. Just surprise them, huh?
Okay, boy.
Now once there lived an old man with a very crooked nose. Lived in the log hut and they called him Old Man Mose. Yeah! Early one morning, I peeped at the door. Didn't hear a single sound. I ain't gonna do no more. Now I believe. I I believe that old man Moses is dead. Yes, I believe. I do believe. I believe that old man Moses is dead now. Moses kick bucket. Moses kick bucket. Moses kick bucket. Oh, Babylon. Moses kick the bucket. Oh, the bucket. Moses kick the bucket. Yes, I went around to the side and I peeped through the crack. There was old man Moses laying flat on his back. Yeah! Now, if Moses was dead or asleep, I did not know. Boy, but after looking through that window, I ain't gonna do it no more. Yes, sir! Yeah, I found out. I found out that old man Moses is dead. Yes, I found out what it's all about. I found out that an old man Moses is dead now. Moses kicked the bucket. Kicked the bucket. Moses kicked the bucket. We found out. Oh, Moses kicked the bucket. Moses kicked the bucket. Moses kicked the bucket. We found out he's dead. Daddy, old man. Oh, baptized, son is dead.
All right, the clock is ticking like crazy right now. Maxine Gordon did a sensational presentation earlier on Lewis's King of the Zulus. Here is an interview segment where Lewis talks more about New Orleans. He talks about the Zulus. And then him and Mike Douglas sing a beautiful duet on I Cover the Waterfront, another song Lewis hadn't done in years. The visual quality is lacking, but the audio is pristine. And again, kind of summing up everything we've learned today. Let's keep it going here.
Hollywood.
Do you?
Nice people out there.
Where's your favorite place in
Well,
the world?
right now we travel everywhere. Everywhere is nice. Now,
You go back to your hometown quite often, New
Well,
Orleans?
I've been in New Orleans now about 5 or 6 years.
10 years.
I think the last time there I was the king of the Zulus. You know, they had a club called the Zulus. They make you up and you get on a float just like the wrecks come out of the head of the Mississippi River in his float. I come from the New Basin Canal in my float.
Yeah.
See, and I had about
Is that during
20
Mardi Gras time?
Yeah, that was the tradition down there for over 50-some years. And I belonged to that club, and that was my ambition to be king one year. And I finally...
And you made it.
Yeah, Mr. Glazer went down there and straightened it out for me and everything while I made my...
Well, that probably was your biggest thrill, having grown up around
yeah,
there.
because I had... some of the boys in the band on the float, and then the members, they were all made up in there. We was throwing coconuts to the people as trophies, you know, and everywhere we stopped, they had champagne and scotch, you know. By the time the
I can see why
was-
that's exciting.
Yeah. By the time the parade was over, I didn't know where that wig fit, you know. All in my eyes. And I had to go to work that night.
Do you like to drink, Louis?
Well, I don't like to drink that much, but a little taste every now and then is nice, you know.
You're like Joey Lewis. The doctor told you to cut your drinking in half, so he cut out the wash. Right?
Well, I like a little nip before I eat. It kind of gives you a good appetite. But I don't like to drink all night or something like that, and never drink while I'm playing.
You're not a heavy drinker,
No,
sure
I don't drink while I'm working and things like that. I don't overdo it. I like it.
May I ask a favor of you?
Yeah.
Can we do a tune together? Because this is really the biggest thrill I've had since I've been on the show, being able to sing with you.
Let's see. What we're going to check there.
Let's do the one we rehearsed. You start, please.
I hope I know the lyrics.
Oh, yeah.
I cover the waterfront. I'm watching the sea. The one I love will soon come back to me. Oh, yes. I cover the waterfront in search of my love. Yes, 'cause it's by the starlit skies above. Oh, yeah. Here am I, patiently waiting, hoping and longing. Oh, I'm young. Where were you? Are you forgetting? Will you remember? Will you return? Oh, I covered the waterfront. I'm watching the sea. One I love soon come back to me. You take one, Papa.
I cover the waterfront. I'm watching the sea. Will the one that I love be coming home to me? I cover the waterfront in search of my love, and I'm covered by a starlit sky above. Here am I, patiently waiting, hoping and longing. Oh, how I yearn. Where are you? Are you forgetting? Will you remember? Will you return?
Oh, yes.
I cover the waterfront. I'm watching the sea. With the one I love be coming back to me. Will that one I love be coming home to me?
Yeah.
We'll be right back.
Yeah, again, Louis' harmony part is just so beautiful. I've got 3 minutes, and the last clip is 3 minutes. The last clip of the week, after the whole week, everybody joins in for a couple of courses of I Can't Give You Anything But Love. You'll see Jewel Brown here.
How about singing I Can't Give You Anything But Love? We go home with that one.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Jump it.
The Louis Prima version.
Oh, I can't give you anything but love, baby. All things plenty of, baby. Dream a while, scheme a while, use you to find happiness. And I
Don't
guess
forget, I want to thank Louis.
you
It's
go
starting next Monday and
right
all next week. Anita Bryant. Have a nice weekend and goodbye out there.
Baby,
Bye, neighbor.
diamond bracelet.
Our thanks to
will
the
break
John
that
sisters,
down.
Louis Jewel Brown, Louis Lomax, David Court.
You can tell me, baby, I can't give you anything but love.
Yeah, boy, I can't give you anything but love, baby. Love is all that I have plenty of, baby. Dream a while, scheme a while, you're sure to find happiness. And I guess love is all that I have found. But gee, I hate to see you look and swear, my little baby. Diamond bracelets will work double swell, baby. Until that love.
Yeah, there we go. Everybody enjoy that? That was fun, right? Well, come back tomorrow for more. So we're gonna skip to 1970, and again, by this point, Louis, no trumpet playing tomorrow, but beautiful singing. You're gonna see "I'm Confessing That I Love You," another cooking segment, red beans and rice, more interviews, more hilarity. You see Louis singing a duet with Sherry Lewis and Lamb Chop. If you've never seen that before, more fun to come. Thank you all, and see you tomorrow.
Yo, Ricky Riccardi. Ricky Riccardi, give it up for him. Again, thank you for coming. Tomorrow we've got a tribute to George Avakian. Mick Carlon will be talking about Pop Goes Hawaiian. Sarah Rose and Ricky will be talking about digitization efforts at the Armstrong Museum. The music of Satchmo's manuscript. Matt Sakakini will be talking about the mind of Louis Armstrong. Gwen Tompkins on You Can't Figure Out Louis Armstrong, speaking about Danny Barker and Louis Armstrong. And finally, as he said, more Armstrong on video. So please come back tomorrow and have a nice evening. Thank you.
Two down.